Oh, nice.
Sorry about that, guys.
No worries.
Recording is on.
All right, great. Recording has started, and welcome to the weekly call. Augusto's asking about status, but I think that's for the BizDev call on Monday, not today. But so we have the normal schedule of reviewing product updates and reviewing other calls that happen during the week, the BizDev and governance ones, and the dev call as well. But today we also have a couple of folks, Anil and Medea from Delphi Digital, to talk about the report they just published. I think it was yesterday or the day before, with 3 recommendations that they focused on: one on governance and voting power, one on the bonding curve, and one on product kind of roadmap or strategy. And I think you guys were thinking this would be a good Q&A session, but maybe let's you guys can just take a couple minutes to introduce the topic, and maybe we can share a link here if somebody has it. I can try to pull it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Medea, you want to share your screen, or is that too difficult for you right now?
Yeah, no, I can share the, since we talked about the governance stuff in the past, I think it's, probably more useful to talk about the bonding curve and, a potential unified UI across the DXdao ecosystem. So I'll share my screen for the curve right now.
Who's making that noise?
Could be anyone.
Okay. So, I can share the formulas behind this. It's nothing too complex. It's just a bonding curve with a, I believe, 15% reserve ratio. Standard formula for that. And the way that we're kind of thinking about this is, there's two groups of thought for what to do with the bonding curve. On one side, you have people that want to turn it off because they see a lot of money in the treasury, and they don't see an immediate need to fundraise right now at the very least. And by turning off the curve, you can improve the scarcity of DXD, which is good for the the potential for price appreciation. On the flip side, there's people that want to keep on the bonding curve so that DXdao can continue to fundraise and fund development. When we were talking this over on our side, we thought both camps had really good points. And what we wanted to do was kind of like present a compromise that had solved for characteristics of each, but also could put DXD in a good spot moving forward. So instead of having just the current linear bonding curve, we were thinking, why don't we just adjust the shape so that the price rises more exponentially? And really, the way that we were thinking about this is the linear bonding curve essentially is issuing new equity and selling it too cheaply, right? Given where the project is and where it's headed, we want to be in a situation where if there's demand for DXD, that's showing it on the market and not increasing supply at a suboptimal price. So by making the curve steeper, like we have in the in this one, if you look at the chart to the right in blue, obviously the price increases much more drastically as more and more gets minted. And are people going to pay these minting prices near term? Potentially not. It really depends on how DXD trades on the secondary market. If just starting at the first dot for the new curve, people are only going to ever pay $600 to mint new DXD if the market price on Uniswap is higher, and then it makes sense to go this path. But really, this kind of solves for the 2 problems we were talking about earlier, where because the prices are so much higher, people aren't going to increase supply unless it's really necessary. So that improves the scarcity near term and effectively turns off the curve, because you're not just going to have new supply coming to market at low prices. But if there is that demand, the DAO is essentially selling DXD, but it's doing so at higher prices. So we felt like this could be a good way to go about it. And if you look at the chart to the left, this is the supply differences between both approaches, and you get a if you were to play this out to the end of this curve, you can end up with a total DXD supply that is significantly smaller than the current linear bonding curve, and that's just solely because the way that the formula works, instead of inflows going to just increasing supply, it's really being done to kind of raise the price. So when we were looking at other projects with bonding curves, they typically have like one big capital pool that everything is based off of. And right now with DXdao, you have the assets in the treasury, and then you have the ETH that's in the reserve. One way that could simplify things further is you collapse the two into one capital pool, so that the DAO treasury is what's underlying the bonding curve, and you have this new curve on top of it. We were thinking about the selling into the curve, and the more we thought, and this was something that in our first report we were kind of we critiqued a little bit, saying is a pretty big haircut people are taking selling into the curve. But the more we thought about it, and the more that we kind of tinkered with this new curve idea, we were thinking it probably makes sense to just turn off redemptions into the curve. So the intent of this higher price trajectory in the new curve, the intent there isn't to sell into it at higher prices and drain assets. It's quite the contrary. It probably works best if you can redeem. And with a 98% haircut, I believe, of I buy and then I sell right into the curve, people aren't going to do that anyway. So we think collapsing it all into one capital pool, turning off redemptions, and then steepening the curve so that when new supply gets minted, it's not being sold at too cheap of a price, could kind of solve all the problems and put DXD in a good spot.
How do we determine if DXD is being sold too cheaply?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's where it's more, so there's a few ways to do it. And this is something that, we've talked about in our team a few times. You could do your typical DCF type model and see okay, what's the fair value of this fundamentally, and then you can go from there. There's no revenues right now to really discount, so that kind of makes this tricky. But the way you really want to look at it is if this were your company, you wouldn't want to just issue new equity at too cheap of a price. You would only want to keep issuing new shares if it made sense financially for you. So, it is more of an art than a science, but I think you can argue that having a curve like this that appreciates faster, you really aren't getting in a situation where you're selling it too cheap, because that's not going to be the case with this one. Whereas the linear curve, the way to think about it too is the linear curve is the price is appreciating at the same rate of growth the whole way through the curve. But if you were to buy in the early stage of the curve versus the later stage of the curve, obviously buying later on, you're getting a much better deal, right? Because DXdao is in a much better spot. It's raised more money. It's got more products. You want that later half of the curve to really start taking off more, because that's when the pieces are starting to come together, and there's no need to. And that's really the point. There's no need to mint and sell new DXD at too low of a price, especially because the assets the DAO already has. There's no immediate concern that there's cash that's needed. So that, I think that's one way to think about it is a year from now, DXD should only be minted and sold at a much higher rate of growth relative to the linear curve, and that's consistent the whole way through the life cycle. So that's kind of how we were thinking about it.
Awesome. In terms of eliminating redemptions into the curve, I think that's interesting. I assume that would also have to come with like an alternative method of like basically distributing profits to DXD holders.
Yep, absolutely. Just given where the DAO is right now, with no significant inflows on the revenue side to really distribute, I think that's kind of a thing that governance can vote on later on. But ideally, if DXD is locked up or staked in some form for governance down the road when there is revenue, you could do a standard model that you see a lot in the space where revenue is pooled, could be in the capital pool, and then you do distributions from there to the DXD holders that are staked in governing and participating, stuff like that. So near term, I don't think it's much of an issue. Long term, I think governance can kind of decide what to do, and an easy path forward that you see a lot would just be to like distribute it to stakers at that point.
I suppose another option would be to do buybacks too.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, this is this is just food for thought. Could be a good middle ground where the supply is not increasing that much, but it still gives DXD the ability to raise capital. And Neil, you want to take over now and kind of go through your unified UI, because to be honest, that's actually the part I'm most excited about. So I think.
Can you actually share your screen still and just pull out the report? The GIST is not working on my computer for some reason.
One more question on the curve, real quick, is have you guys seen a lot of working examples? Because in this space, like everything's being done for the first time a lot of times, right? So like Aavegotchi now has this curve, and it's just like exponential curve, but you can buy and sell at the same price on that curve. And there's some other examples in the past, but I'm wondering if there's more like use cases that can be looked at to like show how the different shapes of the curves actually lead to like results. And I don't know if there's that many out there. So that's what I'm wondering if we know of many.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there are a few projects with bonding curves. I think the one that kind of stands out in terms of like being a larger project that's pulled it off relatively well is Nexus for insurance, and that's another investment of ours, which is why we were familiar with bonding curves, and we were interested in kind of like tweaking it to see if we could optimize it. In that situation, there's a 2% selling fee into the curve. So again, not bad in that sense at all. But I think the main differentiator there is just how the capital structure is kind of arranged, where they do have inflows from people purchasing insurance, so you have like regular cash flows heading into the curve, into the curve's capital pool. So allowing for like tighter buying and selling prices around the same area is a little more feasible there. In this situation, because you don't have the steady stream of income really hitting the curve yet, redemptions aren't really that necessary. And I think the other big thing with Nexus too is in that situation, they really do want, they want to suck up as much capital as possible, whether that's from insurance or from new purchases, because that expands their capacity to underwrite more insurance and grow. And it's just like a feedback loop of more comes in, the more we can do, the more that ends up coming in after type situation. This is a little bit different, but long term, I think a similar thing could certainly be applied a little later in the life cycle.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks.
Awesome. Yeah.
Bonding
MJ, if you can.
Yep.
Yeah. And if you can pull up the UI, I can quickly talk through that. Basically, I'm not sure if you guys had a chance to see it yet. We've seen a lot of the great worker compensation guidelines and even the great thing that Chris put together, which has like, dozens of potential positions. And on that, you see a couple of people being commissioned to build out specific UIs, whether it's Mesa, tweaks the Rails or something like that. We were thinking that since, we're about to go on kind of this, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but, aggressive hiring spree, we thought it could be best to kind of take a step back and really think through how we want to really form DXdao for the future, as far as how its branding and kind of like, UI and user experience looks. So one thing that's always kind of attracted MJ and I to DXdao before we joined a couple of months ago was basically how kind of diverse the suite of applications are, and how I think over time, a lot of these applications can actually end up having a lot of synergies too. So, for example, if you look at what's going on with layer 2 migration, you have a lot of these apps that are choosing specific partners. You have Synthetics obviously going with Optimistic, and you have DYDX going with Starkware. And there's going to be a period, I think, in the first half of next year or first quarter of next year, where while all these protocols are moving to all these different layer 2s, composability is going to be weakened and impacted. And I think DXDAO's kind of suite of applications can actually benefit from this, where we make kind of like a unified move to and I know there's been a lot of discussions on this, but just wanted to kind of preface the unified UI, where DXDAO can actually benefit from being on the same layer 2 and having its protocols maintain that composability. I think the unified UI and UX is just something really easy to digest for people, and also helps we've spoken to users of like Mesa and even Omen before, and some of our clients actually, they didn't even know DXdao was like involved in, say, something like a Mesa, and we were kind of not shocked by it, but kind of upset about that, and think that's something that definitely needs to be changed, where if you have this unified app where like you make it easy for people to go to say Mesa or Omen, they still are in like a DXD kind of portal. And also it'd be really beneficial for us members, where a lot of the communication amongst DXdao right now is kind of fragmented. There's Keybase, there's the DAO Talk, Alchemy, there's a Telegram group, and I think it'd be really nice to have kind of like a unified space where you can go to check things like the treasury, votes, quick links to forums and topics that are up for discussion. And most importantly, since we're moving into this aggressive hiring phase, also have like a space where we can show like, oh, what jobs are we looking, kind of like a job posting board. So that was kind of like our idea. Our mock-ups were really, really rough drafts. Like I said in the report, we're definitely not designers by craft, but we just kind of wanted to throw that idea out there and see what people thought. So far, I know a few of you guys have messaged me on the side and really said that they liked it. Not sure what the technical feasibility of that is, and I'm sure it is kind of difficult to organize unified UI for all these different apps, since there's so many different moving pieces. But I just kind of wanted to get the conversation started and see what are the hurdles to do something like that, and what you guys' thoughts generally were on it.
Yeah, and just to add to what Anil said, the way that I personally have been interacting with the space more and more is through like aggregator interfaces, and different types of tools that kind of just pull everything together. And I think that's where the space is heading more towards, and like aggregating everything in one spot. Like Anil said, there's the ability to cross sell and have synergies, and also improve discoverability, where instead of someone just kind of like navigating to Omen to make one bet, and then kind of just like not realizing DXD is involved, and not realizing that there's other stuff that could be used. They'll come to this portal, they'll make a bet, they'll do a swap, they'll send payments on Rails, and then because there's also the community stuff on the same portal, where for governance and staking and forums and all of that, it really just pulls everything together where, if someone was to come to this site, they see the DXdao value proposition of all these different products in one spot, this community that's easy to join and, stay on top of all in one spot. And, when I saw the Rails UI on Twitter the other day, I was really, excited. I was like, okay, this is a great product that's certainly necessary right now. And then I tried to think about it in my head, as someone would like, would I go to just like the Rails website to do one-off payments? And it's one of those things where like you might want to, but you don't actually do it because it's like it's a little out of the way or it's out of sight, out of mind type situation. But by putting all the products, in one spot, you could essentially kind of make this like a homepage for members, and I think that's really powerful because then people will start using stuff more and more, and you'll get people that come here to be users and then stay as members. So I think something like this could be really powerful in terms of just taking everything to the next level.
I can comment. I think, like, I 100% agree that there should be like a DXdao member tools, as you said it, with like my account, forums, maybe Keybase, which is probably more difficult to integrate. But yeah, like having everything in one place. And then another thing is to have a suite of all products in one place. But I don't think these should be together. This is just my personal opinion. Like for an external user who wants to use all these products, they can, and they should have a nice and easy interface to kind of like go through between the products, and the ability to go and view what a member of, let's say, the DXdao sees. But like these two entities should be separate. This is, my opinion.
Yeah, I guess, MJ, can you go to the next slide? Yeah, so for example, like the way I was thinking about it is you could basically have exactly, a very sleek and minimalistic UI for each of these, so it doesn't look too complex or, too packed together. But if you have even just that sidebar, which takes you to kind of like, unveils like the rest of DXdao, I think that would be nice on kind of each one of the sites where it's not too intrusive, but at the same time, it's like easily accessible, and it immediately draws kind of the eye for people to explore, like, okay, like what other things that, and kind of like starts getting people to start questioning, like, what is, DXdao? How does it have all these different tools? Like the one I'm using right now is really nice. Let me maybe try out some of the other ones. I think it could actually really boost, engagement from and discoverability, and potentially even DAO participation. Yeah,
and if you think about something like Omen too, and I feel like sometimes the challenge with prediction markets is there's so many like esoteric bets out there that like, you might not even go to Omen to look for a bet because you don't even, you're not even aware that that would be a bet that's on there. Like, it's just one of those things where it's like, if you ask me, like, what are the top markets on Omen right now off the top of my head, I'd have no idea, even though I might be interested in participating in one if I did know. With this type of interface, it's easy to, I'm sending payments on Rails, you don't really need a complex UI for that. You can keep the same thing. You kind of push that functionality into this portal. You keep it very simplified. And okay, I'm on this page. Let me click on Omen real quick and just see what's there. And now, I see it, the top prediction markets, all in one spot. I go, oh wow, I would bet on that. Let me bet on that. And then it just gets people like using and discovering things more easily because, personally, when I'm using DeFi nowadays, I rarely go to the standalone apps. And I think the strength of DXdao is that it's not a bunch of standalone apps. It's the fact that it's an ecosystem all under one umbrella. And I think something like this really showcases that.
Yeah, Nylon, to your question about separating these two, if you thought about all the users that come and use DXdao products, and we already have a goal to let users of DXSwap and liquidity providers on DXSwap like start to govern DXSwap, right? And the only way they can do that is by basically getting absorbed into DXDAO. So it is, if you thought like, if you could make every user that uses any DXDAO product, allow them to get DXD or rep or participate in becoming owners of the product, like that's the way that you're going to get DXDAO to hundreds of thousands of people. So there is something really cool about putting these two things together. Like no other product, when you use that product, are they like, oh, also become part of the product and the organization that's governing and making the product? I don't, technically, it's probably gets quite difficult, but putting them two together would be like a really unique offering. Maybe it would confuse some people, but I think overall it would like stand out in the space, which sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, we definitely see the unique aspect as like being super differentiated, but at the same time, it also keeps DXdAO's branding front and center, right? There isn't you don't fail to realize that DXdAO is behind everything because you're on the DXdAO portal. So it really, I think, would be good for just helping people realize what unique aspects are presented here.
I mean, right now, most people think like Omen and Mesa like belong to Gnosis. Like,
Yeah, that's exactly what some of our clients, said when they read our report. We had people reach out and say, "Oh wow, didn't even know DXdAO had their hands in all of these," and that's kind of what inspired this idea. We're like, how do we help DXdAO start, not marketing this, and if you. The way we approach our personal site for Delphi, we were building that for almost a year actually, and we ended up just making it. The way we kind of pitched it to our team was just like, this is going to be like a walking advertisement for Delphi for life, right? And instead of ever paying for marketing costs or anything like this, building like a sleek front end site like this is essentially marketing for future members, and not even for future members, but potentially future developers, where they're like, what, why wouldn't I join DXdAO and build this app under DXdAO to be added to this great suite of products? It's almost like shelf space for them to want to compete to get on.
I like the idea of just generally having like all products like linked back to whatever hub or main homepage where all the DXdAO products are. I just, like people who use Mesa should see a link to the DXdAO homepage where they can easily see the other products, and it just makes me think or want to ask, like, what is the priority of like the DXdAO homepage? Is it so people can learn and join the DAO, or is it so people can use the products? I think both can be done on the website, but I think one may have to.
Well, I mean, most companies do this pretty like Compound. You go to compound.finance, and like that's about the company, and then app.compound.finance is the actual app. So I think that distinction would probably still be maintained.
Yeah, and I think one way we're thinking about it too is, you can certainly still have like standalone UIs for each of these. This would kind of just be like a rolled up place for people to access it. So it's not to say like, ditch the standalone websites. It's more so just like make them easier to discover and use. And the way I try to think about these things too is like when I use the internet today and I need to purchase something, like let's say I want to buy candles, like I don't necessarily want to go to candlestore.com. I'll go to Amazon and find candles as one of their offerings all in one spot, right? If I want to buy soap, I don't go to soap.com. I go to Amazon and I go to their soap purchase. And in that same way, like if you think like how all these things evolve long term, like having the UIs fragmented across all these different places, you could argue is like suboptimal, and kind of like doesn't play into the DXdAO strengths. We're combining them all in one spot that's easy to access. Just reinforces their appeal to people, because I don't have to manage all these different sites, go to all these different spots. It's all a one-stop shop. And I think if you kind of just think about it in terms of like how you currently use the internet, I think those have been the places that have succeeded versus like the standalone specialty websites.
Yeah, and just to kind of give it, piggyback off what MJ said, and to give you guys an example of what we were thinking here long term, right? Like instead of all these apps being siphoned off, you could see something like DXdao creating, some sort of privacy solution. I know that's been, on the forums as well. But instead of it being its own standalone application, it's kind of like an incognito mode, similar to, how if you're using a browser in Chrome, you just start incognito. And, within this portal at any given time on any of these applications, you can just click maybe on the top right or something in incognito, and it turns like your transactions into privacy. This is like, thinking years out. I think DXdao building something like this right now would just put it ahead of the curve there. And then once, some of these protocols turn more so into features in like, in the long term, DXdao could really benefit from, doing something like that.
I'm actually happy you guys are like thinking this is important. This is actually one of the first things I said to DXdao before I started working. And I actually started working last week as a UI and UX guy. So
Nice.
basically I had in my proposal also unify DXdao. I also pointed it out several times, like everyone in the product team knows about this. I think just like looking at the products, they've been developed at different times, and like Misa is just gifted to us. But I think like how we could do this is just, we need to think about the brand first of all, just like separately from the product and the UI. Just think of the brand and set the brand first, and then after this, we start looking at each product and see if we actually want to connect them directly, or if we want to go the Google Apps way, where they actually are connected in one way, but you need to like press some kind of menu or something to go there. And then maybe you have something like Google Docs, Google Sheets. Those are connected, but not the other apps. So we could have like a really nice UI in between maybe 2 or 3 products, but I actually don't see all the products in one view. That would be awesome. Obviously, like the thought of it is really, really nice. But I like the thinking about this dashboard and the voting governance and all that. So I will definitely explore this. I will definitely look at how this could be. I think there's a balance in between what you guys are showing us and what I'm thinking about DXdao.
Yeah, and the Google Apps framing, that's something that personally I hadn't thought of, but I think makes a lot of sense, honestly. Going that approach where, yeah, you don't have to like recreate full UI in each of these tabs, but it could just be a way to like access each. So like going to Google Sheets or going to Google Calendar, like it's all being done through the same UI, like initial UI, and then it goes to a different page. But really, it's just it gets people using everything differently. I think that's another good idea.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, the key is if this centralized place exists, when you're in even if it is a separate app, you have an easy way to either get back to this, or if you start here, you open, say, Omen, this stays open on like the one tab. But like right now, part of the reason people don't know any of those things are DXdao is because there's no way to navigate. I mean, there's a thing at the way bottom, like in the footer, but like there's no, they're all different. They all have different setups, but they should have some similarities and alignment so that you can get back to DXdao, and then that's how you know it's all DXdao. Yeah,
no, exactly. And I think to call back to a project that we've talked about a lot and work with a lot, Synthetics is a project that I think is really like underappreciated in the space, where when they started and they had those like locked up rewards, and you had to go into the minter every week and mint and get your rewards. I remember when we first published that report, MJ, like over a year ago, some of our clients were almost reaching out and saying like, this site looks so sketchy. Like, are you guys sure this is like, a real investment? And, the best thing I think that happened was every week when you went back to claim your rewards, a few weeks went by after we published our report, and the Minter looked completely different. And then a few months went afterwards, and there were more features, more changes, some like an educational like walkthrough of what Minter was and everything like that. And it was great because that actually led to building Synthetics' very strong community, right? And I think something like this would be the exact same function where, say, one of DXDAO's apps becomes, really receives a lot of traction, Mesa or Omen, or even, a new one. Over time, maybe that's the one that people just keep coming back to, and that gets maybe 80-90% of the usage of all DXDAO's apps. But over time, as DXDAO keeps expanding and keeps adding features, people will start seeing progress and then be kind of more so curious and more so like, okay, what's going on here? And that could really lead to like a stickier and stronger community, and kind of bring in people that wouldn't necessarily have been, curious enough to explore DXdao beforehand.
Yeah, and I think like that's a good way to think about it too, Anil, of like just like an evolving like UI that keeps people enticed and keeps changing. Like if DXdao were to launch like a brand new product, let's say people didn't know anything about Rails and it just dropped. Instead of having to advertise that like standalone, if people are already coming to this portal every day as it is, you just add it as a new product, and you add like some type of like alert or notification as like, hey, come check out this new product, and then immediately it's like, okay, we don't have to market each product. You don't have to market each new product all over again from the start. It becomes like they become additive to each other, where I'm already here to use Omen, and now there's a new product called Rails, and there's a new product that does this, and there's a new product that does this, and it just like really the feedback cycle of
compounds.
Like you can make this like a go-to page that every DXdao member checks, first thing in the morning when they wake up and try to interact with DeFi.
Yeah, and on the flip side of that too, you have almost like you get the benefit of when there's a new launch of a product, you will get people who may not end up becoming those users who just want to check it out. Like, okay, what is this? So, with every product launch, you will just constantly be bringing people back to DXdao and all the other products. And, I think we're pretty excited about this. We're glad that people have been pretty perceptive to it so far, but we wanted to throw these, taking a step back, we want to throw these 3 proposals out, and we were trying to get this out earlier this month, but based off our conversation with the governance and kind of all the discussion that was had over there, we want to take our time to really think through these last 2 parts, and also add some prefaces throughout the report. But at the same time, we wanted to get this out like while we had this 5-point plan being voted on and about to be passed, because I think we're really excited to be part of any and all those working groups, and kind of share our ideas and hear what everyone's working on. But we wanted to start this off with some kind of some crazy ideas and just some direction as far as like the bonding curve and the UI portal.
Hey, I'm curious. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
I'm curious if anyone's familiar with what Coinbase Wallet did. This was maybe about a year ago, and from the Coinbase Wallet app, when you went to their browser, their homepage, it was kind of like similar to what you're describing. It was this home portal area where it featured all kinds of apps that people were working on in the DeFi space. It had stuff about crypto kitties and cheese wizards and all of these things. And it was really cool because I saw it, and it was this thing that introduced me to probably 15 new projects that I had never heard about. Mm-hmm. And it was just this kind of nice, easy portal. And like, it allowed me to click a button and say, okay, I'm going to do some stuff on Compound, and then come over here and swap some tokens. And it was like I think I can. Is this kind of what you're describing, like something similar to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I don't have any personal experience with that exact situation, but one aggregator that I've been using a lot recently is DBank. And you can swap there, you can search yield farms there, you can just like manage your portfolio there. There's a bunch of functionality, and I totally agree. It makes me find new things much more easily because, you know, it's all one portal, and it's something I check so frequently that, you know, when new things pop up and they're available there, I take note in a way that I might not have if I had to go out and find them on my own, go to their website, click around. That type of discoverability is the exact like strength I think something like this can provide.
Do you mind putting a link to that in the chat and I can check it out?
DBank, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, awesome. This is a great idea, by the way. This is really cool, really exciting.
Appreciate that.
I think this is also part of the branding question. Like, who are we? Who are DXdao? Should we like show new stuff for others, or should we only show stuff that we are working on? Like everything, like this is also not just what you're seeing. This is also what people feel like when they read about DXdao, or like what they expect from DXdao. So I'm actually excited working on the branding together with you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, absolutely. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think so. I think I forgot to mention that Coinbase Wallet actually took this portal down, and from the rumors I heard as to why, it was because it was kind of too good at introducing other projects, and I think they were worried about you know, taking like competition away from their products and whatnot. So like I don't think they liked it from that perspective. So that is like an issue, you know, about how that will work. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, it was taken down because Apple Store.
Apple, yeah, exactly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think on the branding question, you know, something we've told, you know, John and Chris a lot in some of our calls is just like we actually, you know, do like DXDAO's branding, and I think with the recent manifesto that just got published as well, I think you know, DXD's you know, message to the community is kind of you know, never been clearer of you know, where DXDAO is currently at, how it was formed, etc. I think now the focus should be on this kind of, you know, looking forward, and you know, obviously that's going to pull a lot from the manifesto as well. But and this is what I said towards the end of this report that we published, which was like, there's a potential here of us almost launching like a DXdao 2.0, and you know, and there's not like any crazy changes or anything, but all these small tweaks lead to like a bigger like you know, launch, and it just draws more eyeballs and gets more people to give DXdao almost like a second chance. And just you know, like we're kind of leveraging this too from kind of our own relaunch. We you know, we worked on Delphi for 2 years, and with this new site we kind of kept calling it like Delphi 2.0, Delphi 2.0, and it was pretty crazy to see how well that worked, just calling something 2.0. And I think you know, investors like Chamath has, you know, called IPO 2.0, like all his SPACs and things like that. And it's pretty funny how like just human psychology is just like, you see 2.0 and immediately you think you like immediately like think about it in like a different way and think about it in a positive way. So that was another thing that I was thinking about from a branding perspective. But no, we're definitely yeah, I think branding is something that is, you know, in this space is almost more important than you know, in other sectors, just because there's so much speculation involved as well, that yeah, we're definitely down to, you know, help on that angle too, and, you know, shoot ideas back and forth.
Yeah, I agree with your point, Neil. I think like something like that 2.0, it displays like progress and evolution, and that's always like kind of a good message to send. And yeah, I think where we're at right now in the space is it's almost like if you guys don't aggregate your own ecosystem, another aggregator is gonna sum up the stuff you're making. And then, you know, like I was saying, like I use DBank a lot, right? It could be a situation where, you know, I'm going to DBank's website every day to use your tools, but you know, if you play like the long game out of like who wins that battle, it's the people that own the customers and the client facing side over time. And it's almost like a strategic imperative to have to own that like user interface. And I think like rolling it all up makes that a much stronger value proposition, because, you know, going to like each different tool becomes like more and more difficult to do as more and more become available. So I think you kind of want to like beat the other aggregators at that game before they aggregate your ecosystem before you do. And we talk about like cross-selling things, like, if you go to a project and say, hey, like IDO on Mesa, and then throw liquidity in DX swap, and then by the way, do this and then do this, like, those projects that are considering doing that, if they come to this portal, like that value proposition that you're offering them is so much more tangible and visible, and like they'll understand, like, okay, like I get the synergies that this DAO is offering me.
Yeah, I think that's a great point too, where like, any project that ends up IDOing on Mesa, they're actually essentially marketing DXdAO's whole suite of products. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that this is great. And there's like a few key points here. Like one is, how does DXdao help its community and users understand the full suite of products and introduce them kind of cross product? Then how do we brand ourselves? That's part of that. And then finally, what is the strategy for DXdao on leveraging each of these products to kind of make the experience better and to help have one product help the other? And I like what Zet said about finding the balance here of tying it all together, but also understanding the nuances of like which products actually do make sense next to each other or related to each other, which don't. And yeah, I think it's interesting too to think about aggregators here, because aggregators are pulling disparate products and companies stuff together, right? Whereas DXdao has full control over this product suite and has this kind of integration ability that aggregators wouldn't have, right? The ability to kind of actually not just pull everything together, but to literally control how the individual products work and how they interact with each other.
Yeah, and with DXdao, because like you guys really own the front end, making sure that you continue to own that front end is so important, which something like this reinforces. What else was I gonna say? It just slipped my mind.
Yeah, it'll come back to you. Yeah, we're coming up in the hour here, so I mean, I think this has all been really great. In terms of like the normal kind of product and call schedule, I think we can forego that this week. But the good thing is both the biz dev and governance calls were recorded, and people can check that out on DAO Talk or on our YouTube, the YouTube channel. But yeah, I mean, I think we can leave a few minutes here for any kind of closing comments, ideas, or things that people just wanted to highlight. I do want to also, somebody brought this up earlier, but I want to tie this into the 5-point plan that was recently passed by proposal. I think it was like a week and a half ago. And, two of the things covered today, basically product strategy and, revisiting the bonding curve. Those are 2 of the 5 points. And so I think the idea with that plan is that over the next couple of months, really develop these ideas into, a solid kind of plan that has consensus and actually gets formalized by governance. And, I think this research by Delphi, thanks guys for joining. I think this is really awesome stuff and a great gift for the community and a great starting point, for this research and these discussions.
Yeah, no, appreciate that, guys. Yeah, no, we're excited just to be a part of this. Honestly, I think your community is probably, this community is probably one of our favorites to interact with, because there's so much, thought behind every decision, and it's, very similar to how we operate. So yeah, we're glad at all kind of the, comments and feedback that we get. So looking forward to, being part of those working groups, and we'll see you guys on Keybase and the forums and next week's calls.
Even more than the Axie community?
Oh, whoa! Don't go there! Don't go there!
No, we like gaming a lot, so.
Cool. Is there anything else somebody would like to kind of raise here? I think we could take a few minutes. We started this a little late.
I just had a suggestion that I think we should. There's kind of been a lot of marketing talk. I know with Rails and kind of a couple other things, and I think it would be a good idea to have a weekly marketing call. Maybe that would coordinate that and maybe make that call Asian time based. And then that would be like another weekly call that people from that time zone could join more, so we could have more calls, not just at this one time. But that was just a thought I had.
Yeah, there's certainly been more kind of activities on marketing channel on Keybase now, with content being produced for Rails, and I think also being planned for DXSwap. Ingemar, I don't know if you want to talk to that a little bit, but there's some more. It seems there's more people getting involved, and maybe there is some.
Yeah, I mean, like I know a few people can't attend calls at this time because of where they are in the world, and it would suck to just like not do anything about it. So maybe a separate call geared towards marketing could be in order. I've been using the business development call as a place for any kind of marketing related topics. So I don't know if it would like dilute that call or not. I do think that Mike, Eli would it'd be great to just have him on these calls.
Yeah, I like the consistency of the call schedule, but it is quite unfair for like whole swaths of the world that are in kind of maybe it's the middle of the night when we're meeting here. So maybe we should consider switching up the schedule a little bit.
Okay, maybe we can move the time of the BD call, or just have a separate call. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think those are interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have enough content and things to talk about for more than adding one more call, like probably 10 calls a week. But we can keep adding, and then at some point, if it's out of control, we can tighten things up. But we can experiment with a few different times and topics, I think.
And I think also it's if we structure in the right kind of way, people shouldn't feel like they have to be on every call, right? Like where certain calls will really be about specific responsibilities, certain people will attend, and then hopefully we'll be able to tie that together. And that's how I see this call, kind of like the weekly roundup, kind of serving that purpose, where people kind of recap what's going on in different parts of the DAO and different things, and it's recorded and it's presented online, and everybody can kind of get a nice recap of everything that's going on. Maybe we need a newsletter to go with that, but I mean I think that's how I see this call and the purpose and service serves.
Okay, we can talk about it on Keybase.
Yeah, we can maybe poll people, see what's going on, talk to the Asian-based folks, Australian-based folks.
We're talking to them now, is what I'm saying. I'm telling them when they're watching this video that I think you guys should launch a call at a different time, but they're not on the call right now to answer that.
Yeah.
So we can.
Yeah, let's follow up with that on Keybase. And yeah, I think stay tuned for kind of formalization of some of these research efforts according to the 5-point plan. Look for, I think next week, hopefully we can get some next steps on that, and taking these plans kind of the next step. I think the product stuff obviously needs to be considered by the product folks. The bonding curve needs to be discussion needs to be widened a little bit. But I think everything today was really great. And thanks everybody for joining.
Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks a lot.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you.